Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time this episode finds you. We have a pretty fun episode this week. We are in the month of January 2026. And so we have been trying to set up episodes that are inspiring and hopefully foundation setting for this year. And so today I have the lovely Lynette Astaire with me, who is an LA based intuitive wellness expert. She specializes in nutrition, mindset, and metabolic health with over 20 years experience in fasting. She works with leaders, creatives, and celebrity clients to support sustainable high performance and long-term vitality. She began her career in food and wellness at age 11, and entering her 40s marked a turning point in her work, sharpening her focus on longevity, burnout recovery, and recalibration from the inside out. Lynette is known for making complex ideas accessible, for asking better questions than most people are comfortable with, and for leaving conversations with both insight and resonance. She's appeared on panels and podcasts and collaborated with brands including WeWork, Kite Hill, and Mac Cosmetics. Her work has supported Grammy-winning musicians, visionary CEOs, and elite athletes. Thanks for being here, Lynette.
Hello, Denise. Hi.
I actually just read an article this morning saying that basically people born between 1985 and 1995 look younger than Gen Z. And I was like, perfect timing for this conversation, because that's a lot of what we're talking about here is longevity, anti-aging, how to stay healthy. And there's no better way to begin the year than with a conversation like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think particularly with the millennials, elder millennials, it's a lot about mindset and it's a lot about accessibility. Because when you look at just culture and photos from quote back in the day, there was no accessibility of what everyone else looked like.
Mhm.
So there was a specific style and there was a specific mindset. So I always look at the comparisons of sitcoms from the 70s or 80s, and you look at the Golden Girls, you're like, whoa, she was 40?
Always,
Okay, no.
always.
And right? And then you look at The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and then you're like, "Wait, but she's 40 now. What's the difference?" Huge difference. So, it's framing, it's styling, and all of that flows into mindset, which is the absolute most important factor in your health and wellness is it starts right here.
We'll get
Right.
into that a little bit more later.
Yeah.
One of the things they said I actually thought was interesting was that they acknowledged that growing up with the internet, millennials are the last generation to grow up partly with the internet and partly not. So the lack of screen time, they think affects well-being. And also politically, things were a little bit different. And so they say that affects some of the aging. I'm sure we need more studies around what screen time is doing to us.
Yeah. With that, I think it goes right back to accessibility. I tell people all the time, I have a friend that was bugging out about just what she was seeing on social media in regards to everything that's always happening. And I tell people, hey, go to a museum and look at medieval anything. Medieval prisons. Like look at the guillotine. Really, really bad things have been happening since the beginning of time. The difference is that we do not have the ability to see all the bad things that are happening all the time in
Yeah.
all of the places, right? Like we're just focused on our village and the bad things. And so we have this overload of bad things, but then we have this overload of good things as well. So it's really about how you frame and train your algorithm into
Yeah.
what you see on a daily basis. So it's up to you.
Our nervous systems weren't built to withstand this kind of constant stimulation and also constant bad news. And so it's really our responsibility. Everyone always hates Instagram, but for me, I've trained the algorithm to be this like very motivational, spiritual place. So when I go on, I'm getting like motivational quotes and fun tarot cards of the day and things that are making me feel supported rather than disenchanted with the world.
Yeah, mine is like meme surfing and metaphysics.
Love it. Everyone has their different things. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. What led you to wellness?
Wow. My mother. my mother. And I say this a lot. We are a reactive species. So, 9 times out of 10, someone's explosion in their wellness journey is either coming from a sickness that started within or a sickness that started within someone that they really, really care about. So, for me, it was my mother. She got breast cancer for the second time. She's fine now, but it really hit me. I was in college at the time. She couldn't come to my graduation. It was like Lincoln Center, this huge big thing. She's from New York. She can't come. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is not cool. I just went into panic mode. And so that's when I actually started practicing fasting. My boyfriend at the time, his mom was hippy dippy, and he's like, let's do the master cleanse. I'm like, what is a master cleanse? I'm like, okay, cool, let's get into it. And then from there, I started to mature and progress in my practice to where I'm at now, and obviously incorporating food, incorporating mindset, incorporating movement, but it started right there with just wanting to take care of myself more as a preventative measure so that I wouldn't get cancer.
I can understand
So
that. Yeah,
so far so good.
I have a lot of friends who are currently struggling with cancer, and I'm now the most proactive to get every single scan. There's nothing like having it be around you also at such a young age. I think for me, these aren't people that are exponentially older. They're my age. They're not people that you expect to be getting cancer. So then all of a sudden it changes how you prioritize health. And so everyone's always like, why are you doing that thing? You're too young to do that. And I'm like, no, clearly the standards we have set as a society are now outdated, and we need to be incredibly proactive about our health because there's so many young people now getting cancer that there's nothing more important than being proactive.
Absolutely proactive right off the bat. And I think that we're seeing a downward trend with alcohol. Like, this next generation's not really going for it. Now, they're going for other things, but alcohol in specific is really, really, really tricky when it comes to aging. Like, that is a huge lever in aging. I mean, you can actually disinfect parts of your home with vodka. So, and imagine what it's doing to your body. It's literally drying itself out. So, you can really see over time, how you will become your habits. Point blank period. You will become your habit. So if you've been working out, doing your skincare routine, washing your face after a night out, taking the makeup off, you're going to see that over time. And that's something that you can't hide and you can't lie. So I really implore everyone in their teens, 20s, early 30s, lock in now. Lock in now.
What made you shift to a focus on founders? What inspired that?
Because I'm a recovering founder. And so I figured I would start at that
Yeah,
place.
yeah. No, it's a great place to start.
Yeah, and everyone jokes when they say like, "Oh my gosh, you're a recovering founder." And founders that hear me say that, they laugh because they know. And then founders that are former founders laugh even harder because they know. So I focus a lot on founders, and I focus a lot just generally on leaders because for me, I've always been a leader, and I've never worked corporate or never been under it's I've been at it in a vigilante rebel, so to speak, my entire life. So that's actually the only language that I know. So for me, it's the best way to be able to express my gifts and be able to help people. So, and founders also, they're the ones that really need a lot of help because they don't think they need a lot of help because they have everything on their shoulders and they're so focused on fundraising, they're so focused on covering the bases that by the time they get to that finish line, which is usually an exit, they're damn near going to exit. So it's really important for them to figure out things ahead of time. Again, not every day is going to be perfect. You're going to get calls, you're going to get all of these unexpected things. But when you really put a great foundation in place to be able to continue to iterate on, that's really going to be helpful. It's almost like you learn the rules to know when you're going to break them. So set those rules, set that foundation for yourself. So then that you get that call, oh my gosh, an investor called, it's great. That's a good thing. And that also can throw you off your schedule. Just like you get a call that your production company has completely screwed up the order. It's for better or for worse. Everything shifts. Everything shifts. And this is one of the biggest things that happens for leaders, founders, anyone in a really big position that has a big responsibility. It's a lot.
So, can you walk us through how you set that foundation?
First thing is a big conversation, a big, long conversation. And it's finding out what you already know, finding out what you don't know, finding out what you're doing, what you're not doing. And I do that by obviously listening. And because I have intuitive psychic gifts, I get a lot of flashes that I'm able to figure out if you're really telling the truth or what you're actually hiding, and really get down to the level of that. Because at the end of the day, anyone can have a meal plan. People get meal plans. Why don't they stick with them? Why don't they stick with their fitness plans? It's not so much about execution, it's about intention and about what's going on inside. So we get to that first. And then the next step is a lot of testing. So blood work, DEXA scans, wearables, what your schedule is already. And then we put together what you should do and then what you're actually going to do. And two frameworks I like to really work with is budget and bandwidth. That's it, budget and bandwidth. You either have the money or you don't to get certain things done. And you either have the bandwidth or you have the intention on allocating that bandwidth to get things done, or you don't. So we figure out the levers within that to create a plan for you that you'll actually be able to achieve. Because especially in January and especially in general, it's almost we set up self-sabotage to have these big, huge goals. So then we don't meet them. And then we can say, oh, well, I knew it wasn't going to work out. Oh, I knew something was going to get in the way. And there's a very American supersize way of thinking. And we always think of supersize in the, McDonald's or junk food type of way, big gulp. But really, the same principles apply for your health and wellness and how you're really going to achieve it.
I'm not a big resolution person because I'm doing check-ins many times throughout the year. There's always a reevaluation every couple months on like, am I where I want to be? But I have found the more that you integrate simple things, whether it's like walking, once it's built into the foundation, like you just do it. And I had a friend who at one point was like, I just hate working out. And I was like, I don't like working out. I was like, I want to make something clear to you. I'm not someone who loves working out. I'm not sitting here being like, this is awesome. I love it. Da da da. I was like, I do it because it's like body maintenance for well-being. I go to the dentist. I don't love going to the dentist. You do it because you need to take care of yourself. And so that's how I explain it. It's like, you don't have to love it. You just have to do it. And the more that you do it, the more it becomes habitual that you're not even thinking about it. Automatic part of your life. It's something that you do and you allocate time towards. It becomes a priority. But I think people think that the people that are working out all the time are loving it. And I'm like, some of them, like maybe, like I do enjoy a cardio here and there. I went on a 30-mile bike ride with my dad once, who loves biking. And I was like, I am never doing that again. I am never doing that again. Like, not interested.
It's funny you say that. I'm really big on synchronicity. So 2 points that you said. Yesterday, about once a week, there's a clinic I work with in Beverly Hills. I work with their weight loss patients, and we've got an EMS machine in the clinic, and that's electromuscular stimulation. And basically, I also help train people with that. 20 minutes, full body workout. That's equal up to two 90-minute hit sessions.
Wow.
This thing is a monster. A monster. And I'm putting on the suit yesterday, and I'm literally telling the receptionist, I'm like, fuck, I hate this. And she like calls back. She's like, but it's only 20 minutes, Lynette. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, why people think that I like to work out? I don't particularly like to work out. I just don't want to be washed.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all. I just want to be healthy. And this is the way that we do it. Unfortunately, we're not in the generation from back in the day where everyone had a little garden farm in the back of their plot of land, and reaching down for potatoes was like your squat allocation for the day. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
We didn't need gyms back in the day. We had to actually reach for the mangoes or reach for the apples. We're not doing that. So we have to really implement that. And tomorrow I'm actually going to the dentist, and I'm not looking forward to it.
But I think that's one of the misconceptions is we don't have to like what we're doing all the time. And I think people are, especially these days, are so used to comfort or what they like. And I have a lot of gut issues. So I changed my diet pretty extensively pre-pandemic. And for me now, everyone's like, oh, it must be so hard to not be able to eat that. And I'm like, I don't care. I feel better. It doesn't matter about the most enjoyment. It matters that I feel better.
Exactly, exactly. There's a thin line. I On the other end of the spectrum, I don't want people to suffer through their wellness. You have to find a happy medium in between it because I'll come across people and clients and they're like just forcing down something like, but it's good for me. Okay, look, there's a mental element to this. We need you to figure out where you can enjoy yourself because otherwise you're not going to enjoy yourself,
You won't do
and
it.
you're not going to do it, and you're going to resent the process. And studies have shown what gives people diseases and the sickness is built up resentment, built up stress, built up stress, built up stress. And so when you actually don't express that, or again, when you hold things back or just do it just because you feel like you need to do it, that's actually creating another stress point in your body. There's something called orthoexera that is basically people who are so obsessed with their health and their wellness that that becomes a sickness and a stress in its own.
Totally.
Oh my gosh, how many calories? Oh my god, how many plastics or microplastics are in this? How many? Whoa, whoa, bro. Look, none of us are getting out of here alive. None of us. Find the balance. Find the
Totally.
balance.
But I do want to say one thing, which is when you're going from a more processed food diet or like incorporating more vegetables into your life, like there is a period where you're not going to want, and then all of a sudden your gut changes, your microbiome changes, and you start to crave like vegetables. When I cut out a lot of things that were causing gut irritation, I used to really crave a lot of sugar. And I found that the more that I shifted my diet, I found my cravings shifted. And so there is a period of discomfort where you're pushing through the other side, where you're changing your gut, which I think is important for people to know is like you'd obviously want to enjoy what you're eating. But I think there's a level where also if you're trying to shift to something that's different than what you're used to, it takes a minute for the whole body to like recalibrate.
Absolutely. That's one of the benefits of fasting that I've really noticed over time, not only with myself, but with my clients, is that it always gives you a reset and an ability to come back to the kitchen with a very, very clear palate. It is the ultimate palate cleanser. And then also, you're able to then pinpoint what your intolerances are. And those things change over time. The same thing that you could take and enjoy at 20 may not be the same thing that you can take and enjoy at 40. And so one of the big things for me is my relationship with sugar. Oh man, it's tough. And every time that I fast, that is an opportunity for me to just go a little bit better, coming back with sugar, and I'm thinking like, fruit sugar, like dried mango. Like, I can clear a bag of dried mango. That's not the best thing either,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
No. I love sugar too.
Mhm,
And
yeah.
this is not an ad, but I'm obsessed with this brand, Hornbill's Chornbills. They make this protein chocolate bar. It's 10 grams of protein, tastes like a crunch bar. It is unbelievable. I have one like every day. It's a very no guilt treat. I get my sugar fix. There's zero sugar in it for the record. So I have been really reinventing the wheel because I've had my sugar, we've been on a journey. I could go off the rails. So we need to have a sweet treat every day. How can I figure out what that is? I'm not the person that's just going to have a piece of fruit. That's just not who I am. So I'm like, what is the thing that exists that's not going to continue to make me crave crazy amounts of sugar?
Yeah, absolutely. Sugar is I mean, you look at the brain scans and what sugar does to the brain is beyond. I definitely suggest people also experiment with a no sugar, like no sugar for a month.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have anything to do with fasting. That is just actually abstaining from sugar. And what you're going to realize is that it is hidden in everything.
Hmm.
It's hidden in everything. We know this. It's a matter of putting it into practice and figuring out what your priorities are. So again, testing is very important. I really implore everyone to get blood work throughout the year, twice a year at minimum, especially if you have specific goals. DEXA scans, I'm really big on DEXA scans because
What are they? for those of us who
DEXA
don't know?
scans, yeah, DEXA scans. So it's a full body composition scan, and it was originally for bone density. But what they found out is that it was really excellent in figuring out your just entire composition of your body. So your lean mass, your adipose tissue, your fat mass, like everything is really broken down. And also your RMR, which is your resting metabolic rate. So when you're really on a journey either to lose weight or gain weight. And what's great about the scan is that it's going to tell you exactly that caloric range. So then you figure out the surplus, you figure out the deficit, and you take it from there. And so every few months, you're able to go and get another scan. They're like $50, or a lot of these places will give you a subscription. And then you're able to see over time, like, oh, wow, this shifted. I had a client that got one in maybe January, February. He was 190 pounds. And then in May, I had him do it again, and he was 190 pounds. He's like, whoa, 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 what's going on? What's going on? I said, hey, 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 look at the fine print here. Muscle weighs more than fat. It shifted.
Yep.
It shifted. It literally shifted. So once he realized that, he calmed down. So again, that's going out to all my folks that just get up in the morning and just stand on the scale and look at it. And I know like a lot of these more advanced scales have some BMI things and factors, but if you really want to get into it and really, really, really get these goals down, you need a lot of data. And the best thing right now to get that data is a DEXA scan. I
Very
love them.
cool. Thanks for
Okay.
sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So say I'm an overworked founder with very little bandwidth. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm a parent feeling the same way. How do you help people support themselves? Like simple things to not break our bodies when we feel very overloaded.
Okay. So first of all, hydration. Hydration is huge. I want to start with sleep, but you think about parenting, you think about responsibilities, and that should be the top thing, but that's really hard. But drinking water and hydrating throughout the day, that's look, no one can take that away from you. So we really want to start with hydration and proper hydration, making sure that you've got your electrolytes, you have the salts, because again, when you sweat, no one's around licking their sweat. But if you tasted it, it's salty. So you have to remember, like, we're not leaking just pure water. We are leaking minerals, micronutrients, and we tend to overlook those because we're thinking so much of carbohydrates. We're thinking of the macronutrients, the protein, the fat, but that little teeny tiny part of copper, you need that. Okay, because then you'll be asking why you're getting gray hair, or asking why maybe your hair is brittle. These are the little things that are running in the background that are really important. So be sure to supplement your water with trace minerals and electrolytes. Make sure that any of these packets and powders and drips that you're getting do not include sugar unless you're about to go and do some endurance activity like running or biking. Other than that, you're just adding sugar to the situation. So, starting first of all with hydration, that's the biggest thing. Most of the time, you're not hungry, you're just dehydrated.
Yeah.
So, absolutely start there. Water is life. And when I express that to people in regards to fasting, like, oh my God, oh, I've got to eat. I can't go a day without eating. Like, no, when you think the hierarchy of needs, actually, you will leave this earth faster. Lack of water and lack of sleep. Lack of food is a little bit further down the line, actually. It's more about the mental connection and the spiritual and emotional connection to food. Food is tradition, it's culture, it's feelings, it's convenience, it's all these things that create this overblown sense of necessity in our lives when, a few hundred years ago, we didn't even have access to this 24/7. Now it's like DoorDash is single-handedly going to take us out.
So you would say sleep and water are our two
Yeah.
most important things, which is great because those are the things I prioritize the
Yes.
most. Good to hear. Love that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about sleep a little bit. Does everyone
Yeah.
have a different sleep method that's right for them, or is there a general rule we should be following?
The sleep method that should be for everyone is that you should be sleeping in a dark, quiet, cave-like just environment. And you want your temperature low. You want it as dark as possible, and to the point where I cover any like electronic lights
Mhm.
that are throughout the room, hotel room, wherever it is that I'm at, because especially for women, that's why our moon cycles are off, because we used to be in line with the moon, but all of this artificial lighting creates moon-like conditions that have us completely thrown off. So you want to have that completely reduced or eliminated as much as possible. Also, sleeping with the television, that's a quite a old school thing. I don't feel like the new generation's really doing that because we don't have the same ties to television, but sleeping with anything, okay, meditation or affirmations, okay, fine. But just sleeping with the TV or just general music is not the best idea because you're preventing yourself from getting into REM sleep and getting into deep sleep. And that's when repair happens. Like sleeping is about repairing and renewing. And essentially, that is our fasting. Every day, I can't fast. You fast every day. That's why the word breakfast is the word breakfast. You are breaking the fast. So if you think about it from that perspective, you want to give yourself as much time possible to be able to do that. Dark, cold, you don't want it, you really don't want it hot. Another thing that people don't think about is what you're sleeping on. We think a lot about mattresses, but I want to lean a little bit into the actual fabric of what you're sleeping on. And it's becoming more and more of a conversation. But these artificial fabrics, the polyester, look, we spend what, 30% of our lives in bed. I'm not going to go into your closet and ask you to get rid of all of your polyester clothing and things because I'm not. But the least that you can do is sleep on something that is completely natural, and my best suggestion for you and what I do is linen. Linen, linen, linen. Linen
I
is
sleep on.
okay, linen is a vibe, literally, the frequency of fabric, and you all can look this up. At the top of the list, linen is a frequency, it's the top frequency. Cotton is next, then it goes into like bamboo. Basically, at the bottom of the list is the stuff that's man-made. And when you think about linen, it's irrelevant of what your religion is that like, look, they were wrapping people, Jesus and everybody with linen, robes of linen, 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 linen. And there was a point even in hospitals that they were wrapping the patients in linen due to the healing properties of this fabric. So, again, sleeping is a time for you to be able to heal and renew yourself. So, you want to do that with a fabric that reflects that frequency.
And then duration of sleep, like, is 6 hours is not enough for me. For some people, I know they're working on 5, 6, and they feel great. I'm an 8 to 9 a night type of girly, but teach their own. I don't know if that everyone's different, like that, like their circadian rhythms work different. Some people need less sleep. There's rumors that as you get older, you need less sleep. Is that true?
So, I'm I'm in the same basket as you. I sleep like a teenage boy. I like 8, 9 hours.
I work nights
And
a
I'm
lot. So those when I work nights, I'm sleeping 10, 12 on the other side, but
okay, yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely big on lots of sleep. I think we always can't control the duration of our sleep because of children, work, life, but as much as possible, getting at least 6 hours of sleep is cumulatively, again, our habits will catch up with us. So, okay, you go through a season and a period. I've gone through season and periods where I'm like on a highly creative builder mode and I don't sleep as much or my schedule is off. Is that just going to happen for years on end? No, it's a season of things. So, if you can't get to a long amount of sleep, one thing that I suggest that you do is make sure that it's not disrupted. So again, it goes back to creating that environment in which there's no disruptions, there's no distractions. And so if you're just getting 5 hours, let that be the best 5 hours of sleep that you're going to get. Another thing, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you can catch in a nap, 20 minutes or 90 minutes, because you also don't want to run into that sleep cycle disruption that'll actually make you more tired than
I love a nap.
which you would yeah, naps, if look, people say, "Oh, I don't have time for that. I can't do this. I can do that." Okay, well, guess what? Your sickness will make time for you.
Right.
Guess what?
Yeah, if you don't slow down, your body makes you slow down. People always see me and they're always like, "Oh my god, you have so much energy." Like, you only see me when I have energy. I am recharging the battery far more than you could possibly believe. I am such a big sleeper and I need so much rest. I'm also a manifestor in human design, which means we operate in inconsistent energy cycles, which we've done an episode on human design if you guys want to go back and see with Erin Claire Jones. You see me because I prioritize my rest and well-being. So when you see me, I'm fully charged, high energy, because otherwise I will opt out. I used to push through that and I just didn't really like how I was showing up. And so I made a mission to myself to be like, if I show up, I need to show up fully. And if I can't do that, then I need to preface that or opt out.
Actually, honesty, honesty, honesty. And just think about it like this: when it comes down to sleep, a lot of it is coming down to cortisol. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone, right? So it's helpful short term, but when it's chronically elevated, it's going to be a problem. So again, it goes back to what you are consistently doing, what you're consistently doing. And with founders and leaders and high performing people, they often live in a constant cortisol loop. Like I said, it's decisions, it's pressure, it's urgency.
So, can you give us some examples of how to understand if we are living in a high cortisol capacity? It'd be helpful to have a baseline.
Okay, so the biggest thing is sleep disruption. So that's one of the earliest signs of cortisol imbalance. So you're waking up between like 2 and 4 a.m. Again, check your sleep. Check. You don't need a wearable for that. If you wake up between 2 and 4 a.m., that's going to be a big, 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 big factor. Facial aging, jaw tension, eye fatigue, inflammation, definitely signals of your nervous system stress and your cortisol. They call it like cortisol face. And those are some big, big, big factors. So again, figuring out what is going to work for you and incrementally stack these habits. I'm really big on habit stacking. One of my biggest habit stacking, not specifically about sleep, but just in general to give you an idea, take more walking phone calls. If you don't have to be at the Zoom, if you don't have to write the notes, if it's just a call where we're trying to pick your brain or your brain's getting picked or you don't have to be on camera, go take a walk, get your steps in. There's ways to do it. In the morning, during a morning routine, everyone should be stretching. Okay, maybe you don't work out every day, but stretching is the minimum. Minimum. Some people stretch for like an hour
I
at
know.
a time.
I'm not a stretcher, and what I had to do, I was telling myself a story that I had to correct because
Mm,
I would go to workout, for example, and there'd be like a stretch class, right? I'm like, I should take the stretch class, but I was like, then you're wasting a workout class. That's what I kept telling myself. And then I
mm.
realized, I was like, Denise, that's a really bad story. That's not a true story because you're stiff. And I mean, I still don't stretch enough, just for the record. I still do not stretch enough. But I've been this way my whole life. I was a really serious dancer growing up. I was in professional ballet school and I always hated stretching because I was like, let's get to the dancing. Let's get to the point. I was like, I don't want to do this. And it's so important, especially the older that you get, that I had to be like, when you're stretching, you're allowing yourself greater capacity in general. And so I had to change that narrative for myself so that I would go to an hour stretch class and not just do something quick in the morning because it's so imperative. But I realized I had a big block around stretching.
Absolutely. Stretching is especially as you age, you could literally laugh and pull something
Mhm.
in your back, or the whole concept of getting up on the wrong side of the bed. You can wake up and just make a move. You could switch over like this and start to wash your back and pull something. And one of the really interesting things about weight training, which is something that everyone should do, especially as you age, and you brought up something earlier, you're like, "Yeah, cardio." Weight training and strength training is so, 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 so important, and one of the cool things about weight training is that it actually makes you more flexible. The
Mm.
more, like, you weight train, you get into it, when I'm really in my weight training bag, I'm so much more limber. I'm so much
Wow.
more limber because again, you're just working it out. you're working it out, you're working it out. So definitely lean into stretching. And a way to habit that with stretching is, look, if you've even got 10 minutes, that's another thing. Like people, oh, I can't stretch for half an hour. Can you stretch for 10?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't meditate for an hour. I don't meditate. Look, I can meditate for 2 hours. I like to do that. But guess what? At least every day, I'm meditating for 11 minutes.
Yeah.
That's my baseline. If I can get more in, great. If not, at least I've had some type of incremental contribution to the overall picture. And again, these habits compound over time. So when you're stretching, one thing I suggest people to do is put on, I'll go to YouTube and find like Abraham Hicks rant for like 14 minutes and have her rant to me about whatever and do my stretches and get up and go. So you're affecting this here and here, and then also you're stretching your body. So if you can do, again, more than one thing when you're thinking about your habits, then obviously you tie them to the habits and you get more done and you feel better.
Yeah, incremental progress is good. For me, stretching is still something I'm actively need to be incorporating more
Yeah.
of. I do everything else
Yeah.
pretty well, but the stretching thing is still, if I go to Pilates, I'll stretch before I start Pilates and then afterwards, right? But I'm not going to Pilates every day. So I need to incorporate some morning stretch, which is currently not happening.
Oh my God, Pilates is Pilates is so hard.
Very hard. But I grew up
Oh my
dancing.
God.
My friend, she tried to do solid core and she was like, "Denise, I have to have a core to do solid core." She goes, "I don't know how these people are doing this. I don't have a core." And I think I took for granted so many years of serious dance that I just have some innate stuff because I've been dancing since I was 3 years old. So there's stuff that is built into my body that I've never really stopped, because even when I'm DJing, I'm doing 20,000 steps dancing a night. So there's always been like an element of some sort of intense fitness in my life. And so Pilates is hard, but I think for me, I don't feel out of my depth just because I think core has been
Yeah.
essential to my life for such a long time.
Yeah, you've got to choose your heart though, because I tell people all the time, I'm a runner, and that's not something I started running right before the pandemic. So I'm not going to sit here and say I've been doing this,
Yeah,
for all my life. But I'll tell people all the time, like, I would rather run 8 miles
right.
than to go and do a Pilates
You and I are the
class.
opposite.
But
Yeah.
exactly,
I did
choose your heart.
Yeah,
Choose
I
your
did. There
heart.
was a minute where I was like, I just want to see if I could run like a half marathon. So a friend of mine was like, "Got you, I'll train you." So we were doing the incremental miles. So I was running, and this was a crazy time in my life. I had literally played Coachella, drove back, then ran 6 miles, went home. It was like one of those where I was doing it every day because I said I would. And I think I got to about like running 10 miles at a time. I was using the Nike running app, which the Nike running app is actually really awesome to gamify running for yourself because I was like,
Yeah.
I got motivated by like getting the badges and hitting the milestones on Nike running app. Anyways, point is, once I hit the 10 mile at a time type thing, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to run a half marathon. I don't need to prove this to myself. I never need to do this again because my body was sore all the time. Like my IT band, I was constantly sore. I was constantly foam rolling. And I was like, I am not interested in constantly being in pain. And so I was like, I'm good. I respect deeply people that run with that level of commitment, but I've proven it to myself. I never need to do it again.
Yeah, that's how I feel about marathons. I ran New York City a few years ago,
Oh my God.
and I am going to run Chicago this year. And then after that, I'm done. I ran Chicago for my mom. She's from New York. Chicago for my daddy's from Chicago, and that's who got me into running. And then after that, I'm good. I can still run around and do running as just like a maintenance, but I think people really underestimate how much time and effort that running is, and it's so much about recovery. Okay, fine. You just ran for 45 minutes. Now you got to tack on another 90 minutes for stretching and recovering.
Yeah.
Now you have to go get the boots. Now you have to go get more massages. Now you got to get you're rubbing yourself down with foam rolling stuff. Now you got to eat an extra meal because you just burned up all these calories. Like it's a whole ass job
No, it's
to be
brutal.
a runner, right? And so I don't think that I'm gonna get like some sort of like ASIC sponsorship to where now this is another income for me to be a runner. So I'm not, yeah, and shout out to all of my like chronic marathoner friends that run marathons throughout the year. I love y'all. but no.
Deep respect, but
Deep
you won't catch
respect.
me running more than 3 to 5 miles at a time. That's it. I'm good on that. I am not interested. Not interested. But I also
Uh-uh.
realized, like, for me, I'm like walking has become so much more important to me than running. But there was a period where I was really just, giving it a go, which is really important to try those things because for me, to prove to myself that if I really wanted to do something like that, if I really wanted to run a marathon, I knew that I could. There's something very powerful in believing in the capacity of your body and pushing yourself to be like, okay, can I hit that limit? And then be like, okay, I know I can. I don't necessarily need to, but what a great thing to know that I'm capable of that should I choose.
Exactly. One of the keys to the fountain of youth is to always be trying new things. And I think that we live in this society where it's this fallacy of if you try something, you now have to be a professional or an expert or a devotee to it. Where it's like, no, you need to be a professional and a devotee and an expert to your career and your professional position. And I mean, look, I've pivoted, you can pivot as well, but when it comes to things, following your curiosity with things, you're firing off neurons. You're always trying something new. And so for me, a few years ago, I was like learning drums because I had access to a studio. Okay, wow, okay, that was cool. All right. And then now, as you know, I've been experimenting with DJ. That's why I have these Pioneer monitors
Oh,
that I
fun,
use for the
cute.
podcast. I knew
Nice. Yeah.
but it's fun. It fires off neurons. And no, I'm not waking up wanting to do Wembley or Coachella, but it's like, wow, okay, I just like DJ'd for my friend who just had a masseuse come over and I'm just playing music in the background and I'm blending kind of good. And again, it's those little wins that help you to get to your actual big goals that are non-negotiable. So you want to put these little fun things in that, are really exciting. And, I don't particularly suggest like one-offs. You want to find something that maybe you just spend a season doing. So, oh,
Yeah.
I go to the pottery class once. That's cool, but that actually doesn't build that confidence of like trying and failing or trying
Yeah.
and you're up and down, up and down, up and down. Like when I lived in Mexico, of course, right out the gate, I'm like, wanting to do surfing, and I am trash still. And it's like I lived right on the beach for years, still trash. That is the most humbling thing that has ever happened in my life. But I did it and I tried it. And now that muscle memory can now be transferred to the bigger picture. And I think that's the big thing for running or anything involving endurance. And again, tying it back to fasting, me being able to practice fasting for so long actually tied into the marathon mindset where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, one more hour, one more day, okay, one more mile, one more half mile. All of these things compound. So again, whatever you're doing here, you're building the muscle memory to be able to execute it in another place. One of the things I do with clients is in the intake, I'll ask everyone, hey, did you ever play a sport in high school, college, doesn't matter if you were good, just did you do it and were you on a sports team? When they say yes, I say that is actually a really good thing because I know that you have a certain baseline of discipline in you. And now we just need to reactivate that. You're
Yeah.
not starting from zero per se, and more so in the physicality type of thing. But even if you played an instrument, when any type of discipline that you're able to do that's not your profession, you've got to turn that back on to then activate the discipline now to get the goals that you want to get done now. So again, like Mamba mentality, whatever you want to call it, that's what you activate to get your goals together in this
Um,
present day.
so in all these meetings with clients and leaders, is it true that you can look at their face and see what they're being honest about? Does the face just tell the truth? What does it tell you about their leadership?
Ooh, that's it. That's when the psychic abilities really come in because it's a combination of it's a combination of like CIA levels of looking at people's blinking, their
Yeah.
twitches, the tone in their voice, because not all meetings are visual.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just on the phone. So you're listening to the tone of voice, you're listening to that beat that they took, you're listening if they go up, oh yeah, I went, oh, you lying.
Yeah.
Anybody go, "Oh, yeah, no, I cook all the time. Oh, yeah, no, uh-oh, you went up like 10 you going, you Mariah Carey talking to me right now? I don't know about that." So it's a combination of a lot of things that, again, as you coach and consult with people, it's a muscle that you build. But I think with a lot of coaches and consultant, they have a baseline of this level of awareness.
Mhm.
That's why they're leaning into it, because they can see it and they can feel it and they can hear it. So, in combination of what I'm hearing, sometimes I'll hear like, a flash where something will say like yoga, or something will say running, or just anything along the lines of that, or a brother, and they say, "Oh, okay, well, how's your relationship with your brother?" Or are you interested in yoga? And things will come out from there. And
Right.
even no matter how ridiculous the thread is, if you listen to, and this is with anyone, everyone is intuitive, everyone has a psychic, but everyone has that voice. That's why when people say like, man, I should have followed my first mind.
Always, yeah.
That's it. That gut feeling, no matter how ridiculous, give it its moment, because 9 times out of 9, it's helping to pull you in the right direction. So be sure to pull on that thread. So yes, I hear and feel so much. And with the intake survey, that's when people just say whatever.
Yeah.
And then obviously when the conversation starts, I'm like, "Oh, it said that you work out 7 days a week," because a lot of times what people will put in their intake is who they want to be,
Right, right.
and then the conversation comes out of who they actually are and what they're actually struggling with. So there has to be a lot of different touch points of interaction before we even get to a plan, because we have to break past all of the different just levels and
Right.
defense mechanisms that people put. And another thing is sometimes you don't need coaching right now. You actually might need therapy.
Yeah, well, that's very often very often the case. There's always a root layer as to why certain habits are happening, right? There's usually a deeper reason than just, "Why can't you change that thing?" Well, there's probably something else corresponding to it. But I think
Yeah.
it's so funny. One of my friends, she's like, "I always tell people, like, I'm a medium, so I know when you're lying." And she's like, "People get so uncomfortable." I was like, "The only people that get uncomfortable are liars." I was like, "I'm so radically honest." I'm like, "Girl, whatever you ask, I'm gonna tell you." So it's always so funny to me when you have to parse through, you're like, what's true, what's not true. That's such a funny way of like being like, well, I'm very intuitive, so I'm gonna know. And it's like people that get uncomfortable are the ones that are not, being transparent.
Yeah, they're not, then they're already putting up this, "Oh, well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" Like, well, there's nothing to hide. There's absolutely nothing to hide. So, it's a whole thing like when dating, where it's just like phone up, phone up. If you don't have anything to hide, phone up, phone on.
Right. No, totally. I also think there's this threshold when you're assessing as a coach or a practitioner is who's actually ready for the work, because a lot of people want, like you say, this is who they want to be. But to access that next level of you have to be prepared to be a little bit bare, vulnerable, and go to
Absolutely.
the next layer, which usually means you're letting go of something and gaining something. But I find that always to be a very hard thing to assess, because some people will come in, I'm sure they're very gung ho, and then 3 months in, they abandon the plan, right? And then your job is to be like, what's happening? How do we keep you on plan? And sometimes you can't keep people on plan. I don't think there's a magic way to assess it, but do you have things that you use to see who's actually ready?
Well, there's a couple of things. I don't accept all clients that apply, and I have fired clients. Again, like, I think you should go to therapy and lean into that first, so then you can create a foundation to be able to get this going. And again, I don't have like a checklist.
Right.
This is the checklist. It's listening to the language, and it's listening to what the prospective client is saying. And one of the big things is listening to what they've tried and failed and tried and succeeded before.
Oh, interesting.
And a big thing that's interesting with coaching and with client expectations is, I'm going to say it, I'm going to look right into the camera and say it. You cannot outsource your responsibility. You cannot outsource your responsibility. Oh, well, I tried this and it didn't work. No, you didn't work. You didn't work. And that's a tough nut to swallow because we want to assign
Yeah.
so much value and responsibility on whatever it is that we're bringing on. Oh, this coach didn't work. Oh, you didn't work.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something that my father would always say to my brother and I growing up when we would break something and then we'd come to him and we'd say, Dad, it broke. He would like, what you mean it broke? You broke it.
Yeah.
You have to take responsibility for yourself. So I'm listening to the language. I'm listening where they're putting their responsibility. And again, it goes back to full transparency. So it's about listening to the language and when you are showing up like, all right, dude, I've tried a lot of things. I can't figure it out. Let's figure this out. Because if you don't start at that place, it doesn't matter how many DEXA scans you get, how much blood work, how many peptides.
No,
It
it's
starts
true.
here. And you have to be ready. You have to be ready. And then you got to be more ready because then the first 10 months, I have a client literally they'll lose 10 pounds in the first month.
Yeah.
And then shit starts to happen. It's like a marathon.
Yeah.
If you start off really strong, okay, that's cool. But dude, we got like 20 more miles. That was just 6 miles. We
Yeah.
got 20.2 miles. That was just 6. So again, you got to pace yourself and you have to leave room for shit to hit the fan because when it does, here comes cortisol. And that's when you really got to balance it out. So it's listening. It's a lot of listening. It's all listening.
I love that as a marker. Of course, there's therapists who are not great, but also a lot of people, they're like, okay, therapy's not working. And I'm like, well, are you being honest with your therapist? Like, are you telling your therapist what's actually happening? And a lot of people aren't, right? Because they want to present a certain way to make themselves feel better versus actually trying to solve the problems. And the only way therapy works is if you show up and you give it everything and you tell them everything. And then also, separate from telling them everything and you guys working through stuff, you have to start changing your behavior. That's the hardest part for people. It's like we're all so aware of our issues. Many of us have a hard time solving them because we're not willing to change the behavior. This is why being human is really hard because it takes so much to actually make real changes in ourselves. I think about this all the time. I'm such a disciplined person on self-work and personal growth and personal development. It's very important to me. And I can see how long it's taken for me for certain things in my life to shift. And I'm someone who's really disciplined. And so you just have to realize this is a slow game. Like anything worthwhile is slow, it's not fast. And I think that's really hard for us to metabolize.
Absolutely. I think about it with weight and I think about it with finances. Those are the two huge levers for people. With weight, like you didn't gain this 50 pounds like overnight.
Yeah.
You didn't. These were incremental things. So again, you got to work your way backwards for these things to happen. Money is a big factor. Money is a huge factor on why people are having a lot of their health and wellness problems. Look, if you don't like how much money is in your bank account, when you wake up and you do your whole routine at some point during the day, look at your bank account. You're gonna start you're gonna change it. You're
Yeah.
gonna look every like, damn, you know what? I'm tired of looking at this. I am tired of looking at keep looking at it till it looks like something that you want to see,
Yeah.
you know? Keep looking at it till it's something that you want to see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lynette. This was so helpful and interesting to start our 2026 off with. I so appreciate you taking the time. Can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at LynetteAstaire.com, Lynnette Astaire.com. And then that is for coaching, speaking, more podcasts, and all the good stuff that I can help you with. And specifically, if you are interested in fasting, I've been fasting for 20 years now, not consecutively, but I have a fasting guide called Reset with Lynette. And you can dive into that and find some really great resources for structured juice fasting, water fasting, intermittent fasting, and a special section for women and when to fast and when not to fast. Super important. We are not the same as the men. So
So
yeah. And Instagram, Lynette.Astaire.
great. Thank you so much. And we'll put everything in the show notes so you guys have it. And we will chat with you soon.
All right, y'all. Bye. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle, Dana Bulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.